Hi everyone, here today to talk more about Salesforce Flow enhancements. My name is Vishrut Shah. I'm a certified Salesforce application architect um, and would like to talk more about Spring 22 Flow enhancements. In my previous video, we did talk about some of the exciting new features regarding Flow that Salesforce is releasing as part of Spring 22 release. Um, uh, as I get myself more familiar with the Spring 22 org, I came across some exciting new features that I would like to talk about during these enhancements. This is going to be mainly around auto layout, flow auto layout. As you are already aware of, Salesforce has released the Salesforce auto layout a couple of releases ago as pilot, but now they are going as GA as part of Spring 22 release. Not only going GA, they are coming out with some exciting new features that I personally think is going to be very, very helpful when working with the flow. So if you're also interested, looking at those enhancements, we will look at those live in a quick demo. So if you're interested in looking at that demo, please stay tuned. All right, so I'm here already signed into the org. In the interest of time, I already have setup open and already within the flow section. So with that, let's deep dive into the auto layout enhancements. So I'm going to click on a new flow button real quick. And as you can see, this is still standard, nothing new on this screen compared to last release. We can select whichever flow that we like. Each of them has auto layout enabled, so it doesn't matter which type we select. And with that, it will show the standard configure start object, and we'll select the triggering object. And in this case, we're going to select account, configure trigger. We're going to say it created or updated. Normally, you would want to define the conditional requirement, but for this video, we're going to just not going to define anything and keep it none. Over here, optimize the flow for, we actually gonna look into both of these before save and after save actions. Let's start with the before save, and I'm gonna come back and change it to after save to show the quick difference on the auto layout, right? So on the before save fast field update, I've selected that, and straight away you can notice this flow trigger explorer for an account as a new feature, right? So during our previous video, we did talk about this flow trigger explorer for account. We know how that could be helpful for making a decision when deciding between creating a new flow versus using the existing flow. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please look at my previous video. I will drop a link of that underneath in the description section so that you can visit that to learn more about that Trigger Explorer. Well, the only difference between the previous Trigger Explorer button from the actual flow screen versus, from the actual flow list view screen versus this screen is over here, since Salesforce knows that I have selected the account object, it's gonna let me pick, it's gonna already define the account object in the Trigger Explorer when I open that. So if I click on it, I already have that account object selected and the record is updated. So that is really because I've selected the record trigger flow. Um, uh, so that's a quick shortcut to go to that. And talking about shortcuts, there are a couple other shortcuts that Salesforce added as part of Auto Layout GA. So if I click on that plus icon, you can see there are shortcuts like updating update triggering record and send email alert. So nothing new in the element wise, but based on some uh, uh, past past experience, they have learned the most common scenarios that has been used within flows are either updating triggering record or sending the email alert. So they decided to add that as as a shortcut, and I see that being a great time saving mechanism. Or it saves a lot of time to admins and developers who's working on that, because you have an ability to select the actions straight from that plus icon versus having to decide between which element I'm going to need and all of that. Salesforce is actually depending on the type of shortcut that you select. It's going to actually bring up that component for you. So in this, we have said, well, I want to send an email alert. So Salesforce knew, well, for you to send an email alert, you're gonna need a new action, right? And so they had this new action pop-up window open component, right? Again, it's the same old new action component and email alert selected over here. I have one email alert created for testing, so I'm going to select that. I'm not going to deep dive into how to create email alert, as it is straightforward, as it is like how it was before Spring 22 release. So I'm not going to deep dive into this, but here it is for your reference. Once you select that email alert, pretty much the same. You enter the label, API name, description, and pass the record ID to that email alert so that it triggers and sends that email alert to the, however your email alert is configured, it will send the email out. I'm going to hit on cancel and go back to that plus icon and show that update triggering record. So we know what component we need for updating triggering record, right? It's called update record. Salesforce is taking that decision process out of um, building the flow. So you basically decide what you want, and Salesforce will pick the component for you in this case as well. So Salesforce is picking label, well, it has open updated record, and here onwards, pretty straightforward as it is, right? So enter the label, API name, nothing new over here. Um, and then you can define the entry criteria and filter conditions of that too. With that, there were other two logics and actions also exist, right? So there are assignment and decision logic also available to you. And before that, let's actually go back to the record trigger flow and switch from before save to after save, and I can show you the difference between the two, right? So we did look at before save now. Let's click on the after save. So depending on this type that you select, Salesforce is actually gonna make some changes, right? So you can see now it has an additional option over here to select from called scheduled paths. So as we know, scheduled paths is only allowed in the after save context and not before save context. So since we selected after save, it has this scheduled path. But not only that, they also have made some changes to the interactions. So now that this is after save, Salesforce knows that most of the after saves, you have an ability to either select an actions or select the subflow. Versus before save, as you can see. So if I'm going to before save over here, you have a different components underneath. So over here in the before save context, it is now changing to assignments and decision. And in after save it was. So I'm going to go back to after save and we can quickly look into what that does real quick. So after save, I'm going to select, let's say Subflow, right? So Subflow has another enhancement, another time saving feature that I really like about. So before if you have used Subflow in Salesforce, you will have you will have to switch back from, um, um, flow screen that you are building to an entire flow list view for you to be able to, well, open that flow. Let's look at how it's doing, find that flow first, and then open it up. Salesforce taken that process out of building the flows and made it a lot easier to access that now. So I will show you how. Let's say I'm selecting one reference flow over here. As soon as I've selected that, Subflow, it has this quick link for me to open in the new tab. So when I click on it, it will take me to this entirely new screen and open that flow for me. Um, Again, that's an omni-channel flow and it's not really part of it, so that's going to throw some error. But just to give you a gist around it, it helps you navigate to Subflow directly from your flow that you're building. Uh, so I'm gonna say test and test over here, hit done, and then that component is now created. Um, Another cool feature that Salesforce came out is with this copy element, and you basically can copy the element that you created and paste it. And you also have ability to go to that subflow directly. So since it knows that this is a subflow, you have a link directly over here to open that subflow in a new tab if you did not open that before. Going back to the copy element, so let's say you have a requirement where you want your flow to act slightly differently, like not a majority difference, major difference in the action, but it's basically a very small difference between the, how uh, it executes based on the decision element. So for that, before I had to basically create an entirely new component, copy what I'm doing manually on that previous component and paste it over here manually. So it was kind of a lengthy process, but now it allows you to do a copy element. So you're able to easily copy and paste that. Well, technically cloned it. And then you have ability to uh, basically click on edit element and make some changes to that as well. Um, so I'm going to close that real quick. But if you have noticed before, it now also, when you clicked on a copy element, so when I'm click, and I think, all right, so if I'm clicking on, sorry, if you're clicking on this plus element, since I've copied that element, I not only have paste copied element option over here, but then I also have a connect to element, right? So what is this connect to element? Well, connect to element lets you decide which element that you want to connect to. Before, you would only be able to connect to component before, like on the auto layout, right? You would only be able to connect to the component that is above you or below you, but this connect to element will now let you select the element that you directly want to connect to. So for example, I want to connect straight from this back to it. You will have an ability to do that. Again, this is a demo or a quick overview of these features. So you might not want to connect back straight in the real life scenario. You might not want to connect straight back to the element it came from. But for the demo of these, I've just connected back to the where it came from. Um, so with that said, those are all the features that I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you also think about, if you're excited about these features as I am. If you feel free to drop a comment if you have any questions, and please like and subscribe to this channel to encourage me for making more contents like this. Thank you again for watching the videos, and take care.